recognition of my introduction into my, yes. How do they track that stuff?
Who knows?
Hi there.
I just hit this button again,
Mary.
where it says speech.
Okay, so the mic should be up.
All right, so
So
now,
we should be making noises.
How's it going?
I see Jim wants to send a whole bunch of Bellevue arrows my way.
He does?
What am I gonna do?
so we're
Oh, yeah,
not,
36
Do a
feet.
test. Do a test.
Hey, that was MAPPA. That wasn't me.
Test.
That's right. All yours, Gary.
how you doing, buddy? Oh, no problem whatsoever. We finally got, well, you mute him again? Chris did it for me, but we finally.
TIF.
Oh, okay.
Just about got ahead of your clerk. Hold on.
Okay.
Sold to someone
Oh,
else.
So it doesn't, yeah. It
It
doesn't.
doesn't have.
all right, now. Jim, did you just time out? Because now I'm showing you as off. Did you just time out maybe?
Well, yeah. I mean, positive or negative, I think the details.
Shouldn't,
Right.
Huh?
It's too bad he
no,
had
he had me all connected.
a tie vote,
I know, but I'm showing you as off down here.
Yeah.
you know. I don't think so, right?
Scott? Jim is off on my screen.
Poor Scott, he can never.
I think there's going to be a question. Yeah, I think there's going to be a question where a shall or may. Oh, yeah, Dave Klug did a red line, and I'm going to do
So Bill Conway, what do you think is the new hire at UNO?
Don't know. Sounds okay.
So if I refresh it, that may help.
Yeah.
All right, now he's on down here.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the Board of Equalization meeting to order. It's, today is November 16th, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
It's 3:02 PM. Copy of the Nebraska Opens Meeting Act is on the north wall of the boardroom. In attendance, we have all 5 commissioners present: Commissioner Burmeister, Klug, Mixon, Warren, and Kelly, and our county administrator, Dan Hoynes, our county clerk and register of deeds, Deb Houghtaling, and our county treasurer, Trace Jones. If you would, silence your cell phones, and we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two items on the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Burmeister, second by Klug. Discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, all agenda items have been addressed as published, and the Board of Equalization is adjourned. Ready, Deb?
Give me 1 minute here. Okay, we're ready to go.
Okay, we're going to roll into the Board of Commissioners meeting. It's the 16th at 3:03. All 5 commissioners are present, along with our administrator and county clerk, Register of Deeds. Commissioners and administrator comments. Commissioner Mixon.
None.
Jim?
None.
David?
None, thank you.
Angie?
Nothing, thanks.
Nothing, sir.
Okay. We have 7 items, I believe. 8, I'm sorry, on the consent agenda. Are there any items any of the commissioners want to see moved? If not, we'll get that passed.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Klug and second by Warren to approve the consent agenda as published. Discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, 5.1 is Resolution 381. It's awarding the low bid for the 1102 building remodel project, Phase 2 and 3 to JFK Construction for $91,575. Beth Garber, Purchasing and Capital Projects Manager.
Thank you, Chairman. On October 26, 2 bids were received for the 1102 building remodel. After review, it's recommended the bid be allotted to the low bidder, JFK Construction, for $91,575. I think I said that right. The other bid was $105,777. The project includes 2 phases. The first phase opens up the treasurer's waiting area so people have direct access and better customer service for our treasurer. And the second phase provides a Register of Deeds office for our Register of Deeds department. And I can answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for Beth?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Warren and a second by Commissioner Klug. Any other comments or questions? I just have one comment. I went down there to the 1102 to get my driver's license, not my driver's license, my motor vehicle plates. And I couldn't believe how efficient it was. So there's really, there are some people waiting, but it was hard to tell because everything was moving so quickly. So that's a shout out to our treasurer, Trace, for making that happen. And also, I wandered around, and it looks like all the other offices that are down there, the Veterans Office, assessors, not the assessors, but, and others. Yeah, I guess the assessors down there. They all seem, pretty pleased. Is that the feedback you're getting?
That is the feedback I'm getting, yep.
Now, we just need to work on that signage a little bit. And
Sir, I've just spent the last 2 hours working on our signage master plan, so.
well, we want to have a professional sign for a professional office full of professional people. So
Absolutely.
that'd be great. Thanks
Yep.
for your work on that. Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, 5-2 is 388, award the low bid for tow lot expansion project. Post frame garage to Midwest DCM for $398,000. Beth Garber, Lieutenant Betzworth, sorry.
On November 2nd, 2 bids were received for the post-frame garage for the tow lot expansion project. After review, it's recommended the bid be awarded to the low bidder, Midwest DCM, for $398,600. The second bid was $470,650. The bid's been reviewed by Purchasing, Facilities Management, and Fleet and the Sheriff's Office, and we recommend approval. And Lieutenant Betzworth can discuss the project intent.
Thanks.
Thank you. The tow lot expansion, the tow lot currently stores vehicles for Sarpy County Sheriff's Office, La Vista Police Department, Papillion Police Department, and Nebraska State Patrol. Current capacity is 90 vehicles in the south lot for short-term vehicles that are only going to be there for a short time before they're let back out again, of course. That lot is always over capacity for the most part. The north lot is 170 cars that are there for long-term, waiting for our next auction to happen, which we've been having 2 auctions a year, about to move up to 3 auctions a year. The north lot also holds evidentiary vehicles, which I'll talk about here in a moment. We receive approximately 1,000 Sarpy County vehicles towed in and near that from the other agencies. Current issues are overcrowding with the volume and constant shuffling of vehicles around the tow lot. Evidentiary vehicles, we are receiving holds from the court to hold that vehicle exactly as it was at the time of the crash. And the only current way we have to do that is to cover it with a tarp and hope for the best, which is not best practice. And then third is the public access to those vehicles which were involved in those serious fatality and crashes. We don't want the public to have access and to have to look at those when they come down there and get their towed vehicles. So, from 2011 to 2018 alone, there's been an 81% increase in auction vehicles as we've tried to keep up with the in and out down there. So this project provides a solution by the grading, the fence, and expanding the lot north and west from its existing lot, along with a 50 by 80 foot building for storage and evidentiary vehicles per best practice. The current tow lot realizes approximately $275,000 in yearly fees and revenue, and this plan sets up the tow lot for an additional 125 vehicles outside of that building and another 16 to 18 inside the building, setting us up for a capacity and solution for the next 20 to 30 years. Is there any additional questions?
The building, 50 by 80, how many vehicles would be stored in there?
Sure.
Or, I guess, how many is potentially the max?
16 to 18 is probably the maximum. We have a system where we're going to put them on rollers, put the actual wheels of the car on rollers, and then you can actually move the cars by hand and get them in very tightly, as opposed to a tow truck having to pull them into the building. Tow truck won't even go inside a building anymore for insurance purposes. So this lets us double the capacity while increasing the safety.
And typically, how many vehicles do we have that are needing to be for evidence?
Yes. If we opened it up tomorrow, we would probably get close to filling it at least halfway, probably 3/4.
Okay, so
I mean, those things ebb and flow as obviously they get released from court. We average about 1 fatality crash a year, or I'm sorry, a month. And so, that kind of ebbs and flows. But
and then
the idea would be that it would be half full, probably pretty close to from the start, and then hopefully, keep us year to year for some time.
And then did you say Papillion Police, La Vista Police, and the State Patrol?
Yes.
would be, so do those organizations pay us for that storage
They
then?
do, yes.
Okay, and so the city of Bellevue is not included in that?
Nope, they do their own tows.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
No, you're good.
I'm just wondering, 4,000 square foot building, you said 50 by 80, right?
Yes.
It's not a very big building. And I'm not trying to expand anything, I'm just trying to look for the future here.
Sure.
And then with whatever bid, can it easily be expanded if you need to add on to it, the building?
There is a bunch of open space to what would be the west of the building that it could be added onto. I believe there's a map that was going to be, I don't know if it's going to be, well, if it's projected up there. So if you were to look at the map there, the blue box is where the building is actually going. The building can actually go farther to the north and then farther to the west. I'm sorry, farther to the east.
Okay.
Jake, I want to thank you. Went out there probably a month ago, whenever it was, and you gave me a tour, and it makes total sense, and looks like to me that everything is right-sized, so,
Appreciate it.
thanks.
About how long do the evidentiary holds average? Or is it all?
We have some there that have been in there for a year already. So it can go up to a year and a half, 2 years. I mean, some of those civil cases, they can go on for quite some time, especially when there's more than one person who is deceased. It can definitely drag on.
The other ones are in and out in between the auctions?
Yes, correct.
And the last question I have, would it make any sense to maybe put the concrete pad to one side that you would expand on down the line? I mean, would there be any use for just the concrete pad on the outside in case you had to expand? I mean, could you put something else there?
Sure.
Just thinking.
I doubt where they put the pad at would change the cost. So it's something we can definitely look at as we move forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Warren and a second by Klug. Discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. 5.3 is Resolution 402. It's a change order, 01, for $264,354 for the Correctional Center. J.E. Dunn, Construction Manager at Risk. And I think Captain Richards is going to talk about this. Captain Richards.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This change order is a package of 4 items. The first item is security doors. Item 2 is for roof hatches over the entryway where the outside of booking where the cruisers come in and drop off prisoners and pick them up. Number 3 is the pump room. We ran into an issue of water pressure testing at no one's fault, not the architect or the builder or the county. When we initially tested water pressure at the east end of the lot, it was fine. And when we went to the west end of the lot and had water pressure tested, it wasn't. So we had to add a pump house and a pump to meet city code, and then we had to add a generator to operate that pump in case it went down and the other generator went out. We wouldn't lose pressure. So that's the 4 items that are change orders in one package. This will not affect the GMP, and it would come out of owner contingency. Are there any questions at all?
So it sounds like most of these change orders are initiated by us as the customer with the doors and the ladder.
The doors and the hatches are customer initiated, and the pump room is architecturally.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions? Motion?
To approve.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Klug, second by Commissioner Burmeister. Discussion? Please vote.
Thank you.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, our last item is Resolution 406. It's a service agreement with Sarpy County and the Sarpy City's Wastewater Agency to commit to obligations with respect to repayment of the Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy loan in order to construct and acquire, own, and operate a sanitary sewer system for the collection and transport of sanitary sewer wastewater to serve southern Sarpy County. Dan Hoynes, County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Excuse me, most of you, we've had many conversations over many years to get where we're at today. But for the benefit of the public and the record, just a couple of comments I'll make. Also have our CFO, Bill Conley, in the room, and Mike Rogers, the county's bond counsel. But I want to make a couple of brief comments, and then if you have additional questions, any one of the three of us would be happy to answer those. But the broad, high-level analysis of what you're approving here today is what the sewer agency refers to as Phase 1A construction of the long-awaited sewer line. Phase 1A, bid package 1, effectively goes from the data centers along Highway 50 down to Springfield. It constructs a sanitary sewer line and a cooling water blowdown line for those two things. The overall bid for this Phase 1A is at $24 million. This agreement before you today, over the last couple of months, is structured as an interlocal agreement between the agency and Sarpy County. And the purpose is delineated in the summary background and the document. It documents the county's commitments and responsibilities with respect to repayment of the SRF loan, a more common term that we've discussed, the county backstopping this. And to be clear, that in the event there's a default, the statute allows, and this agreement would mandate, in the event of default, a tax to be levied to pay for the defaulted amounts. That's the complicated part of it. The agency revenues, pro forma projections, don't anticipate that happening. It is needed for the credit worthiness. But again, we are doing this. The county is not a co-borrower on the SRF loan. Tomorrow afternoon, the agency is scheduled to approve a resolution that approves the actual $69.8 million between the agency and NDEE, not Sarpy County. But this does bind you. And the form and structure, again, if you wanted to vet that out or had more questions, certainly I can give you a high level, but we have Mike Rogers in particular that represented the county, and Nicole Spitzenberger, was involved in the discussion. So the three smart people negotiated this. It's just my job to give you the Cliff Notes version of what you're approving. So bottom line, $69.8 million backing of a loan that the agency intends on approving tomorrow afternoon for Phase 1A of the, now, I mentioned 24 just for clarity. This 69.8, there's 4 more bid packages that are being designed now that will, once we get to Springfield, 9 miles of trunk line will be built from Springfield over to the Papia Wastewater Treatment Plant. It is at that point that we affectionately called, we have sewer in southern Sarpy County, currently scheduled for Q2 2024. So about 2.5 years. A couple of variables on that, but I think I'll pause there. I think there may be a question or two in here, and so I want to leave some time for that, sir.
It'd be nice if Mike could come up and just give us his thoughts.
Good afternoon, Mike Rogers with Gilmore and Bell Bond Counsel for the county. So the idea here is for the county to enter into this service agreement with the agency to provide a backstop for the loan, as was described. It's the Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy makes loans like this to governmental entities around Nebraska for sewer projects. Typically, they have existing revenues, and so they have their ongoing operating enterprises that are typically run by cities, and so they have an operating history and revenues that can be looked at to evaluate creditworthiness. For a startup like this, there aren't existing revenues, and so NDEE needs something to make the loan based on, and so that's the idea with this service agreement. There's, as was mentioned, an obligation to levy taxes, but before you would get to that, there's set aside a reserve fund that would be drawn upon to cover debt service before a tax levy would need to be imposed. So that's an added layer of protection for the taxpayers in the service agreement. Also, the service agreement imposes covenants on the agency to maintain revenues and to set their rates and charges at a level that's sufficient to cover debt service and operations of the agency. So that also protects taxpayers from the potential for a tax levy at some point down the road. So it's the concept of allowing for this was approved by the legislature, I believe, in 2017. I don't have that written down, but that was the county's efforts in the legislature to get this structure. This was the structure in mind when the legislation was approved, and it was done for this reason. So these years later, we're now having this resolution in front of the county board to authorize that financing structure and proceed. So I guess I'll see if there are questions, but that's the general concept.
I have a specific question around the levying of taxes. In Section 5B, there's some discussion once we hit the minimum reserve balance. Right after that, it says the county shall levy taxes pursuant to Section 23-3637. The word shall, at that point, is that if the county has funds to bump up that account above the $2.5 million minimum and we don't need to levy a tax, is the word shall there forcing our hand to levy a tax at this point?
No, the county would have the opportunity to replenish the reserve fund before you get to that measurement date at the end of the fiscal year. That's when you take the snapshot and say, okay, if the balance is below that minimum amount, then you have to levy taxes. So the idea here is that if there is ever a draw on that reserve fund, my expectation is the county would look for ways to replenish the reserve. And if as long as it's above that $2.5 million amount at the end of the fiscal year, no taxes would need to be levied. So it can fall below that amount during the course of a year.
Right.
It just needs to be replenished.
Not to split hairs, but it would may be an more appropriate word there, because I'm just worried that shall is locking us into saying that if we go below that, that is the only avenue that we have is to levy those taxes as opposed to finding the money somewhere else in the budget.
Yeah, and that then goes to the credit worthiness, because on the lender's side, the word shall provides a lot of comfort because then they know that it won't dip below that $2.5 million. So it's forcing the county's hand to, before the measurement date, to make sure that the minimum reserve is on hand so that you don't have to levy the tax. The idea is it is intended to force the county's hand to levy the tax if it falls below that threshold amount.
So that shall is basically a last resort. If we don't have the money somewhere else in the budget, then, okay.
Correct, and it's a timing issue as well. As you know, if you levy taxes this year, it takes a little while for the collections to come in, and so that was also part of the thought process in setting it up the way it's structured, is to give some lag time for collections to come in. That's why there's a minimum balance, and if the county lets the balance fall below a certain amount, then it seems like it's appropriate to start levying taxes because it's the county hasn't found other sources to replenish it. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot baked into that one word, but yes, that was intentional.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But prior to that time, the county could pull from any resource they had or wanted to.
Right, any legally available source
To put into
could be
that
used.
fund
Correct.
before we would have to levy taxes.
Right.
So under the County Sewer Industrial Act that preceded the sewer agency formation, we also had a backstop to raise taxes against all the county citizens. And so we've been in the sewer business in this county for a couple 3 decades, and not once have we ever had to raise taxes to pay for it. So I think we've done our due diligence time and time again, and the financial models that we've looked at tell us that there's no expectation of that happening in the future, although should something unforeseen happen, we would have the ability to go out and raise the funds necessary to pay for this infrastructure. Past performance doesn't always guarantee future results. I realize that, but I think we've got a pretty good track record of, being very careful and very measured in our approach. And so I feel really good about this. I have the kind of the unique role of serving as the chairman of that other agency that's going to be building this sewer system. And one of the things we talked about is, the county's backstopping, but guess who lives in the county? All these residents of 5 cities. So it's a county backstop, but it's a city backstop too, if you think about it, because their citizens are going to bear the same risk as those citizens that live outside the city limits. So, again, I want to commend you and Bill Conley and all the smart folks and lawyers, especially, that have helped put this agreement together. We were really hoping we'd have this thing signed, sealed, and delivered today, but it's coming. The wheels of bureaucracy turn slow. But we want to get moving, because every day that we don't move, it costs us more money. And, and that's a cost to the taxpayer that we don't want to bear, and we don't want them to have to bear either. So I really appreciate, I feel better that you're involved, and you and Bill Conley, because I know that you guys wouldn't make a recommendation for something like this if you weren't comfortable. That makes me comfortable, I guess.
I do have just one other question, Mike.
Sure.
First, I would say, take that we're complimenting lawyers today as a
Well,
good
he
thing.
did
It
say
doesn't happen
smart,
very often.
he did say smart people and lawyers. Catch that?
Oh, lawyers
We'll
are
take
really
anything we
smart.
can get.
No, they're smart. They're way smarter than me.
Can you just walk me through, so in the catastrophic situation where we would not have money and have to levy taxes, what within the protection of the sewer agency agreement is there for a protection to get that money back?
That's a great question. So I mentioned there are covenants that require the sewer agency to impose rates and charges sufficient to cover their operating expenses and debt service, and a minimum of 1.1 times coverage for debt service. That's a traditional and customary coverage ratio for any municipal sewer entity or enterprise when it's borrowing money or issuing bonds. That's the same coverage ratio that you would expect to see for any city in Nebraska doing a public offering. That's the idea here, is to use that same standard for this agency to have that level of revenues. So if it dips below that, the county would have the right under this agreement to talk to the agency and figure out how to salvage the situation. There could be more catastrophic things. If it's not possible for the agency to collect revenues, that becomes more difficult, and those are probably harder conversations to have. If it's not operational, it doesn't have customers to charge rates against, then I don't know that's probably a more complex question as to the agency and how it's being structured. And I think there have been years of efforts put into the agency to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think that's all baked into this agreement, is relying on those years of efforts to make sure it runs well into the future. And so that I'm not sure what the answer is if something like the true catastrophic.
I would just add, Angie, that Commissioner Burmeister, that before apocalypse took place, it would be early. There would be very limited damage. When you talk about not having customers in particular, 2024 we're going to have customers. And so it's not going to be a $70 million hit on day one. You get into phase 1B and something happens, we're going to know early, and so it won't be a $70 million hit. I mean, it's still there, but you're going to be able to see it way ahead. There's a problem.
And another helpful thing is that it wouldn't be $70 million due on, a particular date. It would be the county picking up debt service obligations to make them over a period of years. And so It's not it wouldn't be all sums are due today. That's not the likely scenario. The other thing that I think would help is that the lender is the state of Nebraska. They have their own obligations. They've issued bonds to fund this program, so they have to make debt service on those. But it's not. That's different than borrowing from strangers. You know who your lender is, so that may help as well if there were something really terrible happening.
So your opinion, Mike, the risk of the catastrophic situation is a low risk?
I think so. I think that, yes, I would think so.
Perfect. Thank you.
So the loan is 0% interest, right?
Correct.
So how does the state make bond payments when they're not drawing any proceeds from this? I mean, a 0% interest loan is generous.
Pretty low rate.
Yeah, I don't think you can get any lower, can you?
And
Maybe
zero-
you can. Maybe they can pay us to borrow money from them.
You know, I have not drilled down on that to see how their financials
Yeah,
set up,
but it is, the point I want to make, it's 0% interest.
right, that's correct. This program's been around for a long time, and they have charged interest for a long time to their city
Yeah,
customers.
they probably have
I think they have
quite a bit of cash
Yeah,
on
surplus
hand to
to-
make sure their bonds are serviced, so.
So
Any-
one final comment, just, there is a variable on this resolution. The next to the last, now therefore be resolved, as we emphasis added on the word patiently, and emphasis wait on the state of Nebraska to execute this agreement, that there is a condition in that, next to the last, now therefore be it resolved, that if this comes in and they have some, I'll call it ministerial changes, the state, that the county board chair, county administrator, and fiscal administrator, and approved as to form by county legal counsel can go ahead and change the commas, the question marks, and those things. Commissioner Burmeister asked me a question earlier today, so the board's not getting a chance to vote on those changes. And the answer is that's right, with limitations, but I also said that I'm not willing to risk my career, and if it's more than a comma or something, it's coming back. We're trying to thread a timing needle between now and Thursday, quite frankly, to get a notice to proceed to the vendor, get it approved by the county board, the agency, and then give the notice to proceed. So, but I wanted to make sure you knew that that additional authority is granted via this. Did I articulate that well enough, Nicole? Thank you.
The other comment I would have is, you had stated earlier, and then you just stated here in the latter part of this program's been around quite a while, and it's been set up to help sewer development throughout the state of Nebraska. And we're getting 0%, but they had to pay other things, so they've gotten money back. So it sounds like the program's been successful.
Correct.
Okay. Don't think there's many failures in there.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So then there's money in sewage, then.
Yeah.
It's got to be. So, okay, my point is that besides Angie asked the other question that I was going to ask on your risk meter, where were you at? You already answered that. You felt it's very low. And based on everything that's been put together and drilled down and examined and everything, and then I'm comfortable with all of it. And a lot of this kept coming up, and I kept asking Mr. Hoynes. I said, you know, everybody talks about the 68 or the 69 million to build this infrastructure. I said, what's the cost not to build it? And I think that's a far greater cost. And I think this is a program that, if we're going to go forward, you have to invest, and that's what we're doing. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any other questions? So, as much as, thanks, Mike. As much as I wish we could offer a risk-free environment, well, we can't. But without risk, there's no reward. And we're standing on the precipice of, with a B, billions of dollars of economic development that's going to be made possible by this sewer system. Not even counting on it, but, you know, our Congress just passed a $1.2 trillion infrastructure package, and there will be some funds also flowing for wastewater and sewer enhancements, and who knows if any of that will come our way or not, but we are prepared to move on without it, and I think this is a prudent measure. I'd say, you know, this board generally spends the public's money like we spend our own. We're careful with it. And in this case, we really are kind of putting our own incomes, our own money up as collateral because we're all taxpayers too. So I really look forward to the day where we get this pipe in the ground and start seeing some of the vision and dreams that we've all talked about and over the last couple of years come to fruition. I think it'll be a great thing for Sarpy County and the future of our kids and their kids and their kids. So I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 406.
Second.
Go ahead.
Motion by Kelly, second by Mixon. Discussion? Please vote
Need a second.
if you can.
It needs it.
I was going to say, what happened? You're
There
all
it goes.
offline.
Okay.
Okay.
Dave, are you back? Okay, there we go. Okay. Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, all the agenda items have been addressed as published, and the Board of Commissioners is adjourned.
Hold on 1 minute. Okay, I'm ready when you are.
I sent you a text.
Ready?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, welcome everybody to the Board of Corrections meeting. It's Tuesday, November 16th at 3:38. Nebraska Opens Meeting Act on the north wall of the boardroom. In attendance today, we got all 5 commissioners, our county administrator, and our county clerk. First item is the minutes from our October 19th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Warren, second by Klug. Discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, I'd like to welcome Ryan Marr, our Corrections Director, for the reports.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Just run through a few highlights in our report. Get that up here for you. So you can see, that comes up. Here we go. Again, we'll look at our average daily population. You'll see for the month of October that the average daily population was 150 inmates. That's the 5th month in a row that it has increased. And then so far for the month of November, we're averaging about 157 inmates. So population continues to climb up. Then I want to take you down here to page 4 and just kind of show you who's in the institution. So 3 years ago, when you looked at our population, a large percentage of our inmates were admitted to the facility for DUI. When you look at our population now, 52% of our population are in our facility for violent offenses. So pretty significant increase. You go down here to the percentage of our population who are admitted for felony misdemeanor charges. Again, 3 years ago, if you were to look at that, the largest percentage of our population would be admitted for misdemeanors, and now you see that they're felony admissions. So population's increasing, the severity of the offense, the arrestees is increasing, it's more violent, and we'll have to respond to that with increases in staffing and making sure that we've got coverage in all areas of the facility. You see the time in custody, about 75% of our population are released within 90 days. So we'll need to target interventions that are short-term in nature to impact recidivism. And then Commissioner Kelly asked me last month about our classifications. So we used a North Point classification tool to identify our population into various categories. And then we'll use this classification instrument to assign people to housing in the new facilities. So you see that high, medium 3 category, that would be the second level in our new facility. The medium 4, 5s, and minimums, that lower classification would be on the first floor of the new facility. So that's our report for this month. I'd be happy to answer any questions about this. Other issues with their facility? Okay. So then we'll move on to the new facility, and I'll pull up that chart for you real quickly. Okay, and you can see right now with the weather we had this past week, the number of weather days increased to about 10 total. They're on schedule with all their equipment, all the materials, all the long-term items that they're planning for. Everything is on schedule. Tomorrow we'll have another crane come on the site. Most of the facility that we looked at during our tour last month was in the area called Area A of the facility that holds our operations, intake, the second floor, the behavioral health medical facility. You'll start seeing here next week the steel structure going in for what we'll call Area B, which is the inmate housing areas. So that structure will go up. About a week after that, the precast cells will start arriving. They'll start stacking them. So there's going to be a lot of activity on that site between now and the end of the year. So any questions about the facility? Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Ryan, we're not doing a tour, are we?
I did see that. We did, the statute calls for specific
quarter?
months, January, April. That's why we changed it to October last month.
Okay,
Correct.
all right. Does anybody have anything for Ryan before he escapes?
All right. Okay.
Thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate everything you and your staff are doing.
Thank you.
Oh, Ryan, I do have a question. Sorry.
You
This
didn't.
this is off your briefing, but it's been in the news, so I just wanted to hear your opinion on it. We're seeing some pretty extraordinary measures going in for salary increases for correctional officers. I'd like to hear your opinion on that and how you think that could impact Sarpy County.
So it will impact us significantly as far as recruiting, attracting new staff. My big concern is our ability to retain staff. When you look at that salary increase, it's $6 per hour higher than what we're currently paying our corrections officers. So that comes up to about $13,000 per year difference.
But percentage-wise, that's about 25%, or?
I would say
Quite a bit,
significant, yeah, significant increase.
Because we're at 21,
We're 2208,
22, and they're offering 28?
$28 per hour. So a $6 an hour difference comes out a little over $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Difference in pay. So again, my concerns are the ability to hire and attract new staff, the ability to retain our current staff, and that'll be a significant challenge for us.
So from a financial standpoint, how many total correctional officers are we talking about? 100?
Going into the new facility, we'd be over 100, probably about 110 total. That would be an increase of about 60 some officers off the top of my head, 68, maybe something like that, very close to that.
So basically 1.2 million, is that about right? Because it's 1,000 a month, 12,000 a year times 100, 100, 1 point, yeah. right?
Well,
That's a lot.
that's just the cost difference, correct?
Yeah. And then I assume that the seniority grades will have to all be increased to commensurate with the entry?
I would anticipate that, yeah. I don't, like I said, it's pretty new. Some of the, of it is just adjustment. The other things, the other areas that we're going to have to compete on are the atmosphere, the conditions of the facility. We had a new institution. We have quite a bit going for us. And when we go to this direct supervision model, I think our staff will enjoy working in the facility. And the programs that we plan to implement, all that will also impact our working conditions. But we're working on retention issues, recruiting. We had a pretty good group of applicants from this last advertisement. We advertised before the significant increase with the state.
Okay. Well, you got our attention on it for sure, so.
Good. Thank you.
We probably are going to have to take some sort of step soon if we're going to be competitive.
Yes, sir.
Let us know.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching it closely. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All the agenda items have been addressed as published, and the Board of,
You have-
well, no?
Board
We
director.
have Jake
You
and
got
Tammy.
like 4 more reports.
No, we have other reports.
Are we doing other reports?
I think, are they on there? I didn't look. Tammy and Jake, are you guys up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Are we doing community corrections?
Yep, individual reports.
Okay.
4.1 through 4.4.
Well, we did 4.2,
1 and
right?
2.
1 and 2?
Right,
Okay.
you're on 3
All
and
right.
4.
I'm so confused. No, last time Ryan did them all, and I go, well, what about the other?
Well, actually, that was 2 times ago, but.
Okay,
confusion's on there.
whatever. I'm getting old. Sorry. Didn't mean to shortchange you there.
You're just fine. Good afternoon. Like I said, I'll be quick and just hit the highlights here. Work release, we did send one more person down to Douglas County. So we're, as I mentioned, excited to renew that partnership with Douglas County. We had 24 new offenders placed on pretrial release in the month of October. 2 of those were out of Cass County, 241 total participants during the month of October. And you can see our year-to-date totals here at the bottom. Just over 58,000 jail beds saved at about $7.8 million. Here's some of the screenings the last couple of months. We've been really aggressive with the amount of people we've been trying to see in the jail. They've been up in September and in October, but October, despite the amount of people that we saw, was actually our lowest month for new participants, and I don't know if some of that goes with what Ryan was saying with some of the just the nature of the inmates that we're getting in the jail. The judges are just going to be probably less inclined to let a violent offender, a felony violent offense, out of jail at their first appearance. We've been pretty successful getting the alcohol-related offenses out, the misdemeanor offenses out of jail. Our electronic monitoring numbers remain pretty high, and our appearance rates, we're still really happy with those. So, I told you I'd be fast. Unless you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions for Jake?
Do you feel, Jake, like the ones that are screened that fit the bill for work release are ordered to work release by the judges?
For work or pretrial release, or
I'm sorry, for pretrial release.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think so. I think we do a pretty good job of getting the nonviolent offenders out on pretrial release, the drug offenses, the DUIs.
I mean, I hate to have you evaluate the judges and what they're doing, but it's good to have your opinion.
Please don't ask me to do that. No, they do a great job. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
The lawyers are picking on the judges.
I wasn't. I was just asking a question. I wasn't.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Juvenile. Tammy.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
My report here, pretty steady. We have 12 admissions in October. Average daily population was 7. Average length of stay was 17, still pretty high there. Our truancy and tracker program are at an all-time high, as well as our alternative school and reporting centers, which is typical for this time of year, especially as we're really into the school year. We did have 51 medical assessments. Every one of those 12 that were in detention were all on medication. Some of them were over the counter, so 4 of them were on psych meds for a total of 6 different types of medications. We had 2 ER referrals and 13 mental health watches, so still pretty high with our mental health cases that we have there. No ASAP visits and no EPCs. As far as our counties, you can see our 12, so 8 from Sarpy, 1 from Douglas, 2 Dodge, and 1 from Saline County. We haven't added any new counties for a couple of months. Just wanted to bring to light, we had the Papillion Senior Center, 55 and over club, donated some fleece blankets to our youth. So anybody that is released from detention would be able to take a blanket upon their for their next placement. The senior center has done that 3 times for us, so it's a nice little addition that they have for us. I know you're all familiar with our clothing closet, and we are asking for donations for used luggage and duffel bags. So when our youth leave and they go to placement, a lot of times their property is placed into a plastic garbage bag or a property bag that we have at the Juvenile Justice Center. Obviously very distinguished as far as where they've been, and so we'd like to take that kind of humility off of them. So regardless of what their property is, even if it's not something that would be expensive to us, it's still all they have. So we're just asking for some duffel bags and some unwanted luggage that anyone might have. Something that's not on my report, but you would all have received the jail standards, how we met full compliance when we had our jail standards inspection in October. One thing we were missing was our fire inspection. We did have that done, and so we were in full compliance. I think the letters crossed each other because they were both dated the same exact day. So we are in full compliance with our jail, our annual inspection. And I know, Dan, you had some questions for the sheriff in regards to the critical incident that we had last Monday. So if now would be a good time to discuss that, maybe ask any questions that you might have. If you aren't aware, which I'm sure you are, we did have 2 juveniles, very high-risk juveniles that escaped our facility last Monday. Did call for quite a search and rescue team with all the local area law enforcement agencies, including Omaha Police, who came and helped with Able 1. So what was real critical were not the ages of the youth, but it was their charges. One of them had a possession of a handgun charge, and the other one had a felony assault on an officer, which is why all hands were on deck to find them. So that is under administrative review right now, and we'll be discussing anything that we might need to change, whether that would be policies and procedures, maybe the outdoor rec area, things of those nature. So those will be things that will be coming about. I know I've talked about it before in this meeting with you all and in other meetings I've been at. You know the youth that we're holding at the facility are not your misdemeanor type crimes. Same thing with the jail is experiencing as well. So a lot of the youth that are coming through our doors were housed at the Douglas County Youth Center at one time. And so now we're holding them in a staff secure facility. So we have that juvenile justice evaluation and assessment coming up next month. So these might be some things that we need to discuss on maybe changing some options at the Juvenile Justice Center.
A question on notification as far as our schools, how and when are schools and daycares notified? Because kids are still playing outside while that was going on. So
Well, that is determined by the sheriff's office. So there is a command center, and between the 911 dispatcher and the captains and lieutenants that are running the command center, along with the sheriff, will make that decision to place the schools on lockdown, which it was done. So that's a decision that's made by that command center group.
Thank you.
Can you, just as a favor, get an estimate to what it costs to put a top on the rec
Absolutely.
area?
I was looking at.
Let Dan Hoynes know.
We can look
sure
at.
We can find the money to do that.
A full covered area. I was also looking at an angled top too. The one disadvantage of an angled top, we're not able to use our rec area in the winter. So it really does pose an issue for us. We don't have an inside rec area. So if we're looking at covering it completely, then that would solve that issue as far as being able to have rec 24 or 12 months of the year versus right now it's only being able to be done, of course, when the weather permits. But definitely, Commissioner, that's something that we need to need to look at.
Well, I mean, that's a quick fix, and then maybe longer term, something indoors,
Absolutely.
you know, could be a longer term approach.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Any other questions?
Congratulations on the evaluation.
Oh, thank you very much. That's not just me, that's the entire Juvenile Justice Center staff that make sure everything is safe and secure there and up to standards.
Please pass along our congratulations and thanks.
I will do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Did I miss any? John? Nothing? Okay. All right, well, that means that all agenda items have been addressed as published and the Board of Corrections is adjourned.